How do you decide on what bait to use in the autumn/winter months for your venue? Well, firstly, what's actually in it? And that's the biggest thing that I'm always thinking about. So you can go to some lakes and you have loads and loads of small silverfish that feed really, really actively in the summer months. But come winter time, they definitely slow down. But some venues, they can still be a bit of a problem. Other venues, not so much. So that's one thing. Again, is it more F1s? Is it more carp? But I've got a selection of bait I'm going to talk you through and when I'd look to use each one of them. So starting off with the ever faithful micros and expanders. So when it comes to micropellet choice, most fisheries is fishery pellets, but whenever I could pick to use whatever pellet I want, I'd always opt for a Screttins variety, and I just put the pellets, however many I need, cover them in water and let them fully expand so they're nice and soft. And I think Screttins are the best for this. And then to match your feed pellet, which are your micros, nice softened micropellets, your expander size I think is really important. You want one that's, what I'm going to say is like a true 4mm/5mm. You don't want any ones I don't think that are really small, and likewise, you know, a 6mm, I think that's a bit too big. But what you'll notice is they're really, really nice sort of yellowy golden colour. I think that's really important with your expanders. But feeding some micros and expanders, that's brilliant on a venue where you have still lots of small fish, you know, small silverfish feeding. Don't get me wrong, if they're a nice stamp and they're worth catching, then definitely target them. But more autumn, I would say, that's when micros and expanders really come into their own. Again, if you go into a venue where it's newly stocked, that's when micros and expanders, pellets, they can be really, really good when you go into a brand new venue with new fish. Then the next bait that I want to talk about is our live bait, so maggots. We all know how good maggots are, brilliant all year round, but especially in the winter time. Again, here there's plenty of little silverfish, but they don't feed as much, to be honest, in the winter time. And I've got two types with me, and this one of the biggest questions I get asked is white maggots or red maggots. For me, it's dead simple. All of the time I feel like I'm going to be going there and I've got a good chance of catching some fish shallow, I'll always opt for white maggots. But when the shallow fishing dies off, that's when I opt for red maggots. Also, when it comes to that red maggot time of the year, where mostly everything's on the bottom, I always take a few fluoro pinkies with me, and a single fluoro pinky or double fluoro pinky, or a fluoro pinky and a red maggot, it can be a brilliant, brilliant hook bait. So they're my two live baits that I bring with me. Then the next one is Groundbait. So summertime, I love our pole mix, Blake's pole mix, and I always mix it up sort of nice and loose. When you're fishing in that shallow water, you know, feeding it, get that nice cloud, feeding a bit of a volume of bait, getting them to come in, it's absolutely brilliant when there's, you know, lots of colour in the water. But in the winter time, I tend to use a tiny little pot, like when it's really, really difficult. And the ground bait that I opt is for Blake's Skimmer's Dark. But the big thing is the way I mix it. I almost mix it like the softest paste you'd ever use. And by just smearing a tiny little bit of that in a pole pot when the fish don't want to feed, with say a single fluoro pinky, a maggot and a fluoro pinky, double fluoro pinky, you can tap a little bit of that in and you will get bites. And you don't always have to feed a lot of maggots with it. But that is a brilliant bait if I don't know what to do, just to get me a bite. That is absolutely brilliant. And you can fish that in the deep water, say down the middle and across. Now the next bait that I've got is meat. So this is what I'm going to say is more for Tunnel Barn where we are today. It's allowed, some venues allow it, some venues don't allow it. But meat can work really, really well in the autumn time. Again, when them small silverfish, if they're still really active, you can throw live maggots in and you just get tinied out, is what we call it, where your float's like jigging around all of the time. Whereas you can start a new line in the deep water and feed like 3 to 4 bits of meat and your float will sit there, and when you get a bite, it's from a quality fish. So depending again on your venue, what's in it, meat can be a brilliant bait when it's allowed. Then the last bait that we've got with us is bread. I'd never ever ever go fishing in the autumn winter time without taking some bread with me. On those days in the winter time, we know what it's like. You feed and nothing happens. Nothing wants to feed until later on. And when it's like that, the only way you're ever going to get a bite from a fish that doesn't want to feed is to, again, that location. If you can see an oddon, you bump into an oddon, dob in a bit of bread. When they don't want to feed, that is the only way to be able to get a bite. So again, it seems like quite a little bit of bait, but try and pick it for your venue, what you're fishing, and again with that little bit of experience. But that is the bait that I will be looking to use throughout the winter.